Hello and welcome to World of Business, your weekly update into trending news and latest developments on the stock markets. It's also on this show we herald unsung but thriving business entrepreneurs. My name is Tinotenda Kambasha. Now, Zimbabwe recently released its monetary policy statement alongside the introduction of the new ZIM gold or the ZiG banknotes expected to begin circulating in April 2026. The new notes will circulate alongside existing denominations and features improved durability and enhanced security features. We'll look at this in detail on the segment that follows after this, but first we're going to give you the exchange rates as they are of today. The Zimbabwe gold to the United States dollar interbank rate was at 25.62 ZiG. The Zimbabwe gold to the Great Britain pound interbank rate was at 34.40 ZiG. The Zimbabwe gold to the euro interbank rate was at 29.76 ZiG. The Zimbabwe gold to the South African rand interbank rate was at 0.63 ZiG. The Zimbabwe gold to the Botswana pula interbank rate was at 1.82 ZiG. We also give you commodity prices as they are on the global market. Gold per ounce traded at $5,212 after it went down by 0.56 percentage points. Silver per ounce traded at $88.19 after it went down by 1.54 percentage points. Copper per pound traded at $592.30 after it went down by 0.50 percentage points. Platinum per ounce traded at $2,192 after it went down by 0.42 percentage points. And that's it for this first segment. Do stay tuned. We've got more to unpack on this show, only on World of Business, exclusive to ZBC. Welcome back to the second segment of World of Business. Now, Zimbabwe recently released its latest monetary policy statement alongside the introduction of the new Zimbabwe gold or ZiG banknotes expected to begin circulating in April 2026. Now, we want to examine what these developments mean for local businesses, entrepreneurs, and the broader economy, particularly how the ZiG can support stronger domestic production and trade. Now, joining us is Mr. Tinotenda Kambasha, a regular and economist and the Chief Executive Officer of the National Venture Capital Company of Zimbabwe. Mr. Kambasha, as always, welcome to the show.
Hi, Tafara. Hello, Zimbabweans. Thank you for having me.
Now, let's just jump straight into it. Recently, the Reserve Bank presented the 2026 monetary policy statement. In your view, how will this policy statement help in building confidence within Zimbabwe's business environment?
Well, the monetary policy is always a tricky thing to balance. As you know, there's no one stagnant position. A country is always trading, is always changing on a day-to-day basis. So I think we need to look at the monetary policy as a journey towards what the country is trying to improve. But having said that, I think this was a very positive monetary policy in terms that the Reserve Bank is actually doing what they said that they would. The one thing that was very encouraging is the balance between money in circulation versus our reserves. And also coupled with that, we had Zimtrade announcing that its exports are increasing. So which means that we're also getting a different amount of currencies, basket of currencies coming in to support the ZiG. So I think that the policy was very positive, and the Reserve Bank is living exactly what they said that they would do.
Now, the RBZ also presented new improved ZiG banknotes that are going to be in circulation starting in April this year. How will improved cash circulation positively impact everyday business transactions?
Well, I think the first thing that we have to address with new cash, anytime new cash comes into circulation, especially in our country, because we've got historic fears of what's happened in the past. But what we've seen, especially with this Second Republic, is a clear balance that when we have a new circulation of cash, it is based on economic fundamentals. So it's not just randomly printing to cover a hole. It's actually planned to allow circulation. So what you've noticed is currently, even when we trade in terms of pricing, you'd find, even with the current fuel increases, that in transport, some things have gone up by 25, 50 cents. How do you transact? So then this brings about an issue where if something is $1.50, it rounds up to $2, which is not fair for the consuming public, right? You should be able to denominate your currencies into smaller denominations. So I think the new circulation of the notes will help with this, and it will help us give us a better pricing mechanism that is fair and just. So you would find that if your markup is between 5 or 7%, you're not going to round it up to 10%, and then the only person who loses is the consumer. But now, with new currency in circulation, it allows for easier transaction between ourselves as Zimbabweans and give ourselves, change and transact, which is normal. What's not normal is when we can't do that, or when we are habitually using someone else's currency, especially now that the global economy is in a mess, for a lack of a better word. This is when we actually need to dig deeper and strengthen our currency and give it more confidence for the transacting public.
Now, from a finance and regulatory perspective, how does a stable currency framework support enterprise development?
Oh, it's everything. Because when we look at the regulatory sector and the finance sector, what their job is not to actively participate in markets or in trade, but to create an environment that is conducive for the finance market and for trade. So what we've seen now is the regulators and the finance ministry creating a conducive environment. Why do we say this? The continual stability of the exchange rate allows that replacement cost, and we've talked about this on previous shows, is that a business needs to know that when they then replace their stock, it's at the same price. So the pricing stays constant. So this then allows industrial development, which is exactly what we need in this country, because we need to produce more, and we need to employ more people, and we need to create more exports. And I will always keep repeating that, because that's the drive of NDS2, and that's the drive of the growth of this nation. So the current environment, I always love it when Zimbabweans do not talk about the exchange rate. Then things are going well.
All right.
If the first thing that everybody asks is the rate ripachi,
that's actually very true.
That's a problem.
That's very true.
But of late, I think the last time I heard anyone ask about the rate was last year, maybe July.
It's been constant.
It's been constant.
And I think it's something that the Second Republic has been doing very well, helping maintain it. Now, is it establishing that environment that you're talking about, the Second Republic?
Yes, I think confidence is a long game, and it needs discipline. And you need to show, if you are my friend, I need to be there for you consistently, not just haphazardly, but even on a day-to-day basis. So I think this is where we are, is that the regulators are building confidence with the transacting public. It's not going to be easy.
Now, Mr. Kambasha, you mentioned something. You said building confidence needs time.
Yeah.
In terms of Zimbabwe's economy, how much time would be required to abandon all other currency and stick to our own currency?
I think we would make a grave mistake if we gave ourselves a timeline. What we need to do is to allow the fundamentals to speak to it. So we can't say at this date, on this day, at this time, we're going to have a monocurrency. What we then do is to rather focus on the fundamentals, make sure the exchange rate is stable, make sure that the currency is backed by actual assets that make sense, that the transacting public trusts. And I think once we build that trust element and we can see the trust is there, then we can start moving towards a monocurrency. But the easing out of it will show that as the increase of ZiG enters circulation and the exchange rate stays stable, the confidence then increases until we can then roll out the full monocurrency.
All right. So as a trivial question, it's safe to say that the new currency that's being introduced in April might actually further increase the confidence that people have in the local currency.
Yeah.
Especially when we're looking at SMEs, when they're trading amongst each other, the use of the ZiG amongst them has to be improved and increased, correct?
Yeah. It's not going to be overnight. It's
Yes,
gonna take a few months. And I think it would be premature for us to judge the effect of it immediately in April. I would say give it 3 to 6 months, right? And to really see what the average effect is. Because what happens is when any new currency is introduced, you've got speculators, you've got people who are mischievous in the way that they treat that currency. So initially we'll see a few shocks up and down. Some will rush to the banks to withdraw currency, sell it at a premium and so forth, and we've got limits in the banking system for that, right? But I think what we'll see is that averaging out, I would say let's judge it around October, September, around that period for us to actually know what the effect is. But I believe that as long as we stay disciplined in our expenditure side and we do not increase the currency beyond what we say we're going to do, I think we'll be fine. And you will see SMEs will welcome the transactions in local currency. As I said, it allows them to price their goods properly and to replace their goods at a good cost. So I'm actually excited to see what the effect is going to be. The discipline, like I mentioned,
Yes.
which we've seen so far. If we continue on that trajectory, I strongly believe maybe even before. But yes, 2030, but it's, again, that set figure, set date, has been said clearly that it's not targeted at that specific time. So it's based on the fundamentals. So as long as we keep seeing our gold reserves increase amongst another basket of minerals and currencies, as long as we keep that steady increase, then we can now determine when roughly we will get that monocurrency.
All right. Now, turning to the central bank's emphasis on monetary stability, how does such a position positively influence business planning and investment?
Like with anything, you need to know what the future holds. And I think it's very important for growth of companies. If you are going to purchase new equipment, you need to know that not only just are you dealing with the purchase price of that equipment, you're dealing with the service of that equipment, you're dealing with the replacement of components, you're dealing with hiring new people. And if you're planning for that cost in your business, it's quite important for you to be able to forecast what that is going to be. So it's very important for us to have that predictability especially in the manufacturing sector and the production sector, which is the backbone of the economy. And I'm hoping, just like we did with the emergency road rehabilitation program, that we have an emergency industrialization rehabilitation program.
Wow.
Because we need now to shift our resources. We've done roads, we've done bridges and dams. We now need to look at industry and say, okay, let's retool, let's put resources to industry, because industry employs people.
Yes.
Right? Industry produces exports, right? Industry produces items of trade within the country.
It actually supports communities around them.
Yes. And also import substitution. So something as small as a toothpick is being made locally. We've got timber in the Eastern Highlands, right? Matches, right? Some of these things we're importing. But if that money, that foreign currency doesn't go out and it's trading amongst ourselves, amongst our employed people, paying our people salaries, the contributions to ZIMRA are going in local currency. It props up our economy, and that is the major thing that's going to drive us to that Vision 2030.
Now, Mr. Kambasha, how does the current monetary policy direction influence investor confidence in local businesses?
So any investor will look at how you are dealing with your economy amongst yourselves. So if we show discipline and we show that we can trade amongst ourselves, it brings confidence from the outside world to say, look, Zimbabwe is a stable environment. We can participate in that. And with the growth rate that we're at, the numbers are out there. I mean, we're growing quite fantastically, right?
Yes.
So investors will be watching on the sidelines. They're actually watching now. I mean, how smart do we look having gold backing our currency at the moment, right? Being one of the major, I mean, it's a basket of currencies and a basket of commodities. But having that, you're seeing these global shocks and our rate hasn't even sneezed.
Yes.
So it shows that element of support, even to the investors coming out, it shows that we have that stability. But Tafara, I really want to focus and mention this, that we shouldn't always look at FDI as the savior, right? We have capacitated companies, local companies, to do roads, right?
Yes.
They're doing it themselves,
Yes,
employing local
themselves.
people, right? They've got the machinery, they're doing it locally. We should look at our domestic direct investment, right? We should look at ways of encouraging our own people to invest in our own infrastructure, in our own buildings, in our own businesses, right? Stop people from taking money out and externalizing money and so forth. They should invest in this country, and we should look at ways to encourage them to do that. And I think, yes, FDI is very important, but with what's happening in the global market, I don't think that any of these other bigger economies will be too worried about looking at investment in Zim when there are wars going on in the world, right? So let's look at Zimbabweans investing in us, because we are very, as the president said, all these things are happening very, very far away from us.
Yes,
right?
That's
so
true.
let's focus. Yes, they do affect us. Yes, you know, fuel issues, fertilizer, there's going to be food issues. Yes, but this is where Africa should take that advantage and become fully self-sustained and really trade with itself and not really try and focus on global issues and global problems.
Let's focus on us as Africans.
Yeah.
All right. Now, after the break, we shift focus on how the ZiG can encourage local production, strengthen domestic trade, and create opportunities for startups and SMEs. Don't go nowhere. Do stay tuned. This is World of Business, exclusive to ZBC. Welcome back to the third and final segment of World of Business, and we continue our discussion on how Zimbabwe's monetary policy statement and the rollout of the ZiG currency, which is expected to start in April this year, can support local enterprise growth. Now, I'm still joined in the studio by Mr. Tinotenda Kambasha, economist and chief executive officer of the National Venture Capital Company of Zimbabwe. Sorry, there I swallowed my words a little bit.
Don't worry, we're rebranding to the National Venture Fund. So,
all right.
Yeah,
all right.
as of ZITF. Yeah.
Now let's now explore the opportunities this creates for local businesses and entrepreneurs. Now, Mr. Kambasha, how can wider use of the ZiG strengthen domestic trade between local businesses and consumers?
Like we mentioned in the first segment, right? The monetary situation allows the free flow of goods, right? Yes, there's the currency exchange, but what we're seeing is we don't have a fair exchange, dollar for dollar, ZiG for ZiG,
yes.
Because of the distortion between the currency issues. So if we ease out that monetary policy, we're going to see more trade. And, simple things. And I'm not talking about sophisticated stuff. So, onion, right? We need to be able, if I want to pick two, I must be able to transact. But right now, if I've got $1, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So you're forcing someone to buy $1 worth of a good when they really want to spread that amongst different things. So it's going to allow trade. And then what happens to the person selling, right? That person sells more because they're selling, yes, they might sell less bigger portions, but they're selling more unit prices. So it allows that smaller unit to move faster. So which then increases the sales and that person gets more revenue. So it actually increases trade by having smaller denominations of transactions.
All right.
The consumer is buying the smaller unit that they want. And the seller sells more smaller units, so therefore they sell more.
All right,
right?
all right.
So everybody wins.
Everybody wins.
So
it's
this,
like
this currency thing is great.
I like how you put things on the table, Mr. Kambasha. Now, what opportunities could this monetary environment create for startups and SMEs?
Oh, it's great. And why I say that is that if you're a startup, right, and you are looking at, and we're looking at the startups that are within this environment, and you're trading within this environment in your local currency, again, it allows you for having a good price point. So if you're a startup, you want to disrupt the market. You're not going to come in at the higher end. So it allows you to really get that sweet spot where you're not making losses, but you're making waves in the market, right? Whereas, again, going back, if you have to sell it for $1, you might not want to sell it for $1. So if a drink is going for $1 at Pepsi or Coca-Cola, right? If you want to come in with your own local brand, new innovation, or whatever you want to call it, and you want to sell it at 75 cents, the only way you can do that currently is that you then bulk it up to make 75 round up to a figure where it gets up to $1.50 or whatever, right? Which then still gives you a problem because you've got 50 cents, right? So you have to make it to $3 or something, right? But if you then can undercut by 5 cents or 10 cents as a new startup or a new business or an entrepreneur or an SME, you can price yourself at that sweet spot. So therefore you can compete with some of these bigger people in the market with your new products. So it actually helps them at that pricing point. And then going back again to the transaction, it allows the free flow of capital between transacting public. So I think it's definitely a great positive.
Now, from your perspective, which sectors of Zimbabwe's economy could benefit the most from increased use of the local currency?
I think I would change that question, Tafara.
Please
Which
do. Rephrase
sectors,
it for
I'll
me.
send it back to you. Which sector of the Zimbabwean economy does not benefit from the new currency?
That's a good perspective. All right, do share to us. Do share to us.
Look, I think it helps all sectors. Obviously, more to do with production and trade, but all sectors, including services.
Service delivery,
Right.
That's true.
And even to the point of, when I say services, I'm not just talking about the services that people mostly talk about in tourism, some people doing, the marketing and so forth. I'm also talking about the guy who services your car, anokuchinjira oil, right? And you can haggle about prices and so forth and all that, but also in paying that person at the right price makes sense.
Yes.
Also, when you acquire the right filters and oils at the right price. So it really stretches out to all services and all industries and all aspects of the economy, even to buying data.
That's a service.
Right?
Yeah.
You're buying data at that right amount of ZiG that you want. So it really helps you to denominate things differently. Whereas right now, things have to be bundled up at unit prices and unit offers. What does this bundle offer? What does this and that? Because there is no other way, usually if I'm using cash, right? There's no other way of denominating. It's different if you're using electronic money or swiping. But if I've got cash and I want to buy something on the street or whatever, it's still fixed at those rates. So it allows you, okay, right now, how do you buy 50 cents worth of airtime?
Without EcoCash, without like my mobile money,
How?
you can't. So you have to round it up to $1.
See.
You can't buy $1.50 worth of
Takutsukira
airtime.
ngemadumasa,
Yeah, we're
50
going
cents airtime, 50 cents ngemadumasa.
So it's safe to say the introduction of the new currency is going to help stabilize a lot of these issues. What financial or legal frameworks are needed to help SMEs fully benefit from this system?
Well, very interesting question. I think the legal frameworks we've got in principle, there are a few things that we're working on, and we're working very closely as well with the relevant ministries, especially to do with the SMEs. So we will be coming up with suggestions to both the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of, where the SMEs lie, and Women's Affairs as well.
That's under Honorable Monica Mchangwa?
Yes, Senator, yes. So there are some incentives that we'll be asking for and so forth, just to see how we can help them ease out in those sectors. But I think the policies that are in place are there. The only thing we need is the confidence from the transacting public to embrace them. We will try and do a bit of lobbying for some tweaking here and there, but it's still a bit far out, but hopefully soon coming. But I think generally what we need to do is to have trust in the policies and the process. Unfortunately, it takes time because of trust issues, and we understand that. But I think if the regulatory authorities continue what they're doing now, we will reach that point sooner than later.
All right, now finally, just before we round up our show, what practical steps should entrepreneurs take to position themselves for opportunities created by the current policy direction?
Well, the one thing I always say about entrepreneurs need to be ready. Nobody can predict the change in environment. Nobody can predict wars. Nobody can predict anything. But if you are ready as a business, as an individual, to take advantage of opportunities, then you find yourself in a better space. And why I say this, because it costs you nothing to do market research.
Yeah.
It costs you nothing to understand demand, to see gaps. It costs you nothing to do reports.
True.
Right? But the problem is that you get people who try and scramble because ukokwaboka, or this is there, or this opportunity is there, and you want to do that at the last minute. So for you to be able to take advantage of something, it's like running a long distance race. You need to have been running that, running 5Ks, 10Ks every day, every second day. So when the big race comes, you're ready.
Yeah.
And who knows when you need to run? You know,
Yeah,
you'll get
that's
chased by
very
a dog at any moment. So you need to be ready to be able to run. So I always say that have your stuff prepared, have your ideas prepared, document your stuff, document your ideas, and have an open mind, but be ready, put in the work before the work is needed.
All right. Now, thank you, Mr. Tinotenda Kambasha, for sharing your insights. It's always a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you, Tafara.
Now, as Zimbabwe continues to strengthen its monetary framework and promoting the use of the ZiG, local enterprise and entrepreneurships will remain key drivers for economic growth. Now, my name is Tafara Bendaguta, from myself and the crew behind the scenes.
ZBC News, the real African voice.